The first thing Alex noticed that night was the smell. Not the warm, earthy scent of his freshly watered lawn or the faint tang of his neighbor's barbecue, but something sharp, electric, and distinctly alien. It made the hairs on the back of his neck prickle. He stepped onto the patio with a beer in hand, his peaceful evening already disrupted. The source of the smell became evident when the sky above his backyard lit up with a shimmer of green and blue, like someone had spilled a bottle of glowing ink across the stars. "What the hell?" he muttered, shielding his eyes as a sleek metallic craft emerged from the spectacle. It moved with a grace that defied physics, landing silently among his meticulously pruned hydrangeas. The ship's surface seemed alive, shifting between textures, one moment sleek as glass, the next as rough as tree bark. Alex stared, slack-jawed, as a door slid open with a soft hiss. A figure emerged, silhouetted by an otherworldly light. "Alex Montgomery," the figure said, stepping forward. Its voice was layered, as though spoken by several people at once, but unmistakably familiar. Then she stepped into the light, and Alex's beer slipped from his hand, hitting the patio with a dull clink. "Karina?" Her iridescent skin shimmered in the moonlight, shifting hues with every breath she took. Her luminous eyes, impossibly large and impossibly expressive, locked onto his. She wore a strange, flowing garment that seemed to ripple like water, though no wind stirred it. "Yes, Alex," she replied, her voice softer now, but carrying a weight that made his chest tighten. "Why did you forget me, human?" Alex opened his mouth, then closed it again. His brain scrambled for something, anything, intelligent to say. What came out instead was, You're standing in my hydrangeas." Karina blinked, looking down at the crushed flowers beneath her feet. Her expression shifted to one of mild confusion, then amusement. "Ah, your primitive foliage. Apologies." She stepped out of the flower bed with a deliberate elegance. "Though I must say, they hardly seem structurally impressive." "Okay, hold on," Alex stammered, his mind catching up to the situation. "You can't just show up after all this time and insult my plants." Karina tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing in what Alex recognized as mock seriousness. "Is this what you've been doing all these years, Alex? Cultivating weak vegetation?" He ran a hand through his hair, still staring at her. "What are you doing here? How did you even find me?" She crossed her arms, the gesture startlingly human. "The finding was simple. Your species' digital footprint is embarrassingly large. As for why I'm here?" Her gaze softened, and for a moment, the teasing tone vanished. "I came to see you." The weight of her words hit Alex like a freight train. Memories he'd buried long ago came rushing back, years spent aboard the Galactic Concorde's diplomatic vessel, working side by side with Karina. Their late-night conversations, her laugh like the chiming of distant bells, the way her hand had felt in his, even though it had been a very alien hand. This is a lot to process," he said finally. "Do you, want to come inside?" Karina's expression brightened, and she followed him into the house. As she stepped through the doorway, her tall frame barely clearing the ceiling, her gaze darted around the living room, taking in the mismatched furniture, the framed photos on the walls, and the faint smell of air freshener. "This is your domicile?" she asked, her tone halfway between curious and incredulous. "Yeah," Alex replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "Welcome to Earth suburban living. It's not as exciting as a starship, but it's, cozy." Karina raised a brow, or at least the alien equivalent of a brow. "Cozy. Is that how you justify the brown furniture?" Alex barked out a laugh despite himself. "Okay, so interior design isn't my strong suit. You didn't come all this way to roast my house, did you?" Karina's lips curved into a faint smile. "No, Alex. I came to, what is the Earth term? Catch up." They settled in the living room, Alex on the couch, and Karina perched gingerly on an armchair, her movements graceful yet awkward, as if she were trying to mimic human behavior. "So," Alex began, leaning forward, "how have you been? You know, since you disappeared without a word?" Karina interrupted, her tone sharp, but not unkind. I've been well, all things considered. My work has been consuming. Yeah, well, Earth life has been pretty consuming too, Alex said, scratching his cheek. You know, bills, taxes, grocery shopping. Karina tilted her head, her luminous eyes narrowing. You left interstellar diplomacy for groceries? Her deadpan delivery cracked something in Alex, and he doubled over laughing. Okay, when you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous, Karina said, though her expression softened. But I suppose humans are known for their peculiar priorities. The humor lingered between them, easing the tension, but it couldn't erase the unspoken questions hanging in the air. Seriously, though, Alex said after a moment, why now? Why show up after all these years? Karina hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. For the first time, she seemed unsure of herself. I wanted to see you again, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to understand why you left. Her words hung in the air like a challenge, and Alex felt the weight of his past mistakes pressing down on him. But before he could respond, Karina's expression shifted, her sharp wit returning. And I also wanted to know if you finally learned how to use chopsticks properly. You were embarrassingly bad at it. Alex groaned, covering his face with his hands. Oh, come on, I was trying. Karina's laugh filled the room, a sound so familiar yet so alien that Alex couldn't help but smile. For a moment, it felt like old times, like the years and galaxies between them hadn't changed anything. But as the laughter faded, Alex knew the night was far from over. Karina wasn't here for jokes or nostalgia. She wanted answers, and sooner or later he'd have to face the truth. The living room was dim, illuminated only by the soft glow of a single lamp and the faint, shifting light that seemed to emanate from Karina herself. Alex sat across from her, his hands clasped nervously as he tried to steady his thoughts. The weight of the years stretched between them like a vast chasm, but Karina's eyes, those deep, luminous eyes, seemed to cut through it effortlessly. Do you always keep your domicile this austere? Karina asked, breaking the silence as she gestured to the barren walls and the sad lopsided bookshelf in the corner. Alex rubbed the back of his neck, feeling oddly defensive. I like to think of it as minimalist. Karina raised what might have been an eyebrow. Minimalist or uninspired? Okay, harsh, Alex said, though he couldn't help but grin. Not all of us live on shimmering starships, you know. Some of us have to work with IKEA furniture and limited budgets. IKEA, Karina repeated, her voice laced with curiosity. Is that one of your planetary leaders? Alex snorted. Yeah, sure. Supreme Chancellor IKEA, ruler of Allen wrenches and confusing instructions. Karina tilted her head, processing his sarcasm. Ah, humor. A distinctly human coping mechanism. You have not changed, Alex. Her words were a gentle jab, but they carried an undertone of nostalgia that made Alex's chest tighten. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You haven't changed either, Karina, still sharp as ever. For a moment, her luminous gaze softened. Flattery, she said, her voice almost teasing. Another human trait I remember well. They sat in silence for a few heartbeats, the air thick with unspoken memories. Alex finally broke it, his voice quieter now. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. Karina's expression shifted, the faint humor in her eyes replaced by something deeper, something sad. Nor did I. But time moves differently for my kind. What feels like years to you is but a ripple in the current for me. And yet... She paused, searching for the right words. The current still carries the weight of our parting. Alex swallowed hard, the guilt he'd tried to bury for so long bubbling to the surface. I didn't mean to just disappear, Karina. Life on Earth got complicated. Complicated, she repeated, her tone sharp. That is a convenient explanation for abandonment. I didn't abandon you, Alex said, though his voice lacked conviction. "I thought about you, about us, more times than I can count." Karina's gaze didn't waver. "Yet you never reached out, not even once. Were your earthly complications so consuming?" Alex opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. How could he explain the crushing weight of returning to Earth, the endless demands of a life he hadn't truly chosen? Instead, he deflected with a nervous laugh. "Well, for what it's worth, you're looking great," he said, gesturing vaguely to her shimmering form. "I mean, the glowing thing is new, right? Very radiant." Karina blinked, her expression caught between confusion and amusement. "Are you attempting to compliment me or distract me?" "Both," Alex admitted with a sheepish grin. Her lips quirked into a small, reluctant smile. "You are as infuriating as ever, Alex." They fell into a rhythm after that, their conversation ebbing and flowing like a tide. Karina spoke of her life among the stars, her work as an emissary for her people, and the countless worlds she had seen. Her descriptions were vivid, painting pictures of crystalline oceans, cities suspended in the clouds, and bioluminescent forests that sang in harmony with the wind. Alex listened, captivated, though he couldn't resist interjecting with the occasional joke. "Okay, but do any of these planets have pizza? Because if not, I'm not sure they're worth visiting." Karina's laugh was a musical sound, and for a moment, the tension between them faded. "Your obsession with this pizza persists, I see. Perhaps I should have brought some from the Galactic Concord's replicators." "They can replicate pizza?" Alex asked, his eyes lighting up. "They can replicate most things," Karina said, her tone wry, "though I doubt their version would meet your exacting standards." Alex leaned back, a wistful smile playing on his lips. "Man, I miss those replicators. Do you remember the time I tried to make tacos and accidentally summoned that gelatinous thing?" Karina's expression softened with fond amusement. "You mean the sentient blob that nearly consumed the navigation console?" "Yes, I remember it well. You claimed it was a creative culinary experiment." "It was," Alex protested, laughing. "How was I supposed to know their food processors had an AI component?" Their shared laughter filled the room, a sound so familiar it was almost painful. But as the laughter faded, the weight of their unresolved past settled over them once more. Karina's smile dimmed, and she leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "I have waited a long time for this moment, Alex. To see you again, to understand why you left." Her words struck a chord deep within him, and Alex felt the walls he'd built around his emotions start to crumble. He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "It wasn't about you," he said quietly. "I mean, not entirely. Coming back to Earth, it was like stepping into a different universe. Everyone expected me to just pick up where I left off, but I wasn't the same person anymore. And you—" He paused, his voice catching. "You were a reminder of everything I'd left behind, of the life I could have had." Karina studied him, her expression unreadable. "And yet here you are, a life lived in fragments, haunted by what you lost." Alex laughed bitterly. "You make it sound so poetic. It's really just been a lot of bad decisions and takeout dinners." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Ah, the great human tradition of self-deprecation. I had almost forgotten how skilled you are at it." "Yeah, well," Alex said, running a hand through his hair. "It's a survival skill around here." They sat in silence for a moment, the air between them thick with unspoken words. Finally, Karina reached out, her hand hovering inches from his. "Perhaps we are both survivors, Alex," she said softly, "each in our own way." Her words hung in the air, and Alex felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. He looked up, meeting her gaze, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. "Maybe we are," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Karina's smile widened, and the light within her seemed to glow just a little brighter. Alex woke to sunlight streaming through the window, his head throbbing faintly from the emotional hangover of the previous night. He blinked blearily at the clock on his nightstand, trying to remember why his dreams had been filled with shimmering lights and laughter that chimed like bells. Then the memory hit him like a rogue meteor. "Karina," he muttered, bolting upright. The faint smell of something sweet and metallic wafted through the air, confirming she hadn't been a figment of his imagination. Throwing on a rumpled shirt, Alex shuffled down the hall, only to freeze in the doorway to the kitchen. Karina was perched on a stool at the counter, holding one of his frying pans as though it were a priceless artifact. Her expression was a mixture of curiosity and mild horror. "Alex," she said without looking up, "this object, what is its purpose?" "That's a frying pan," Alex replied, still groggy. "You use it to cook." Karina tilted her head, her shimmering hair catching the morning light. "Ah, a primitive thermal manipulation device. And you use it to produce sustenance?" "Yeah, sure," Alex said, rubbing his eyes. "That's a fancy way of saying breakfast." Karina glanced at the pan again, then set it down with the same care one might use for a live grenade. "Your species continues to surprise me with its adherence to inefficiency." Alex smirked, opening the fridge. "Well, sorry we don't have molecular replicators. Eggs and toast okay for you?" She watched him crack an egg into the pan, her eyes narrowing as the yolk sizzled. "This method is inelegant. Does it not concern you that the molecular structure of this protein is being destabilized?" "Not really," Alex replied, flipping the egg with a practiced motion. "I'm more concerned about burning it. Want some coffee?" "Coffee?" Karina echoed, her voice tinged with suspicion. "It's a drink," Alex explained, reaching for the coffee maker. "Helps humans wake up in the morning, or at least function like semi-competent adults." Karina's gaze drifted to the machine as it hummed to life, its mechanisms clinking and groaning in a way that even Alex had to admit sounded vaguely threatening. "Your reliance on biochemical stimulants is noted," she said, her tone deadpan. "Hey," Alex said, grinning as he poured a cup. "Don't knock it till you try it." Karina accepted the mug he offered, sniffing its contents cautiously. She took a tentative sip, and her expression shifted to one of cautious approval. "It is acceptable," she admitted. "High praise," Alex quipped, sliding a plate of eggs and toast in front of her. As they ate, the awkwardness of their first meeting began to fade, replaced by a strange, almost nostalgic camaraderie. Karina's sharp wit kept Alex on his toes, while his self-deprecating humor drew out a laugh that sounded both alien and familiar. But beneath the banter, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that Karina was holding back, skirting around something she wasn't ready to say. "So," he ventured, as he poured her another cup of coffee, "are you going to tell me the real reason you're here? Or are we just going to bond over my terrible cooking?" Karina's smile dimmed, and she set her mug down with deliberate care. "I told you, Alex, I wanted to see you again, to understand why you left." "And I told you it wasn't that simple," Alex said, leaning against the counter. "You think I wanted to leave? To come back here and pretend like none of it ever happened?" Her luminous eyes searched his, and for a moment he thought she might press further, but instead she sighed, a soft, musical sound that tugged at something deep within him. "Perhaps it was not simple," she conceded, "but neither is my presence here." Alex frowned, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Karina hesitated, as though weighing her words carefully. "The Galactic Concord does not approve of unsanctioned visits to Earth. Our contact with your species is meant to remain strictly diplomatic." "Wait," Alex said, his eyes widening. "You're telling me you came here illegally?" Her lips quirked into a faint smile. "Your species has a way of making everything sound so dramatic. But yes, I suppose that is accurate." Alex let out a low whistle, running a hand through his hair. "Karina, you can't just... What happens if they find out? Are they going to send some kind of intergalactic SWAT team after you?" She tilted her head, her expression calm but serious. The consequences would be severe, but I calculated the risk and deemed it acceptable. Acceptable? Alex echoed, his voice rising. You risked everything to come here, and what? Rehash old arguments? Her gaze sharpened. I risked everything to see you, Alex. Do not trivialize my decision. Her words hit him like a punch to the gut, and for a moment, he couldn't speak. Karina's expression softened, and she reached out, her hand hovering inches from his. I would not have come if I did not believe it was worth the risk, she said quietly. Alex swallowed hard, his throat tight. Karina, Before he could finish, a sharp, metallic sound echoed from outside. Both of them froze, their gazes snapping to the window. What was that? Alex asked, his voice low. Karina rose gracefully from her seat, her movements fluid and purposeful. A surveillance drone, she said, her tone clipped. Alex's stomach dropped. Surveillance? From who? Karina's eyes glimmered with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. The Galactic Concord, she said. They found me. Alex's heart pounded as he followed her to the window. Outside, a sleek insect-like drone hovered just above the lawn, its iridescent shell reflecting the morning sunlight. What do we do? Alex whispered, his voice tight with panic. Karina turned to him, her expression calm but resolute. We run. Run? Alex repeated, his voice climbing an octave. From that thing? Are you kidding me? Her lips curved into a faint smile. You always did underestimate me, Alex. Before he could respond, Karina raised her hand and a pulse of shimmering light shot from her palm, striking the drone with pinpoint accuracy. The machine sparked and sputtered before crashing to the ground in a heap of twisted metal. Alex stared at the wreckage, his jaw slack. Okay, he said after a moment. That was awesome. Karina arched a brow. You are easily impressed. Hey, Alex said, holding up his hands. I'm just saying, if we're going to run for our lives, it's nice to know you've got some cool alien tricks up your sleeve. Karina's smile widened, but her expression quickly turned serious. This is only the beginning, Alex. More will come. We must leave, now. As the weight of her words sank in, Alex felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Whatever was coming, he knew one thing for sure. His quiet, suburban life was officially over. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he threw random items into a backpack. What do we even take? Clothes, toothbrush, snacks? Do aliens eat snacks? Karina stood by the window, scanning the horizon for any more signs of the Galactic Concord's drones. Your focus on food at a time like this is impressive. It's called stress eating, and I take it very seriously, Alex shot back, grabbing a box of protein bars from the kitchen counter. I mean, if we're going to be fugitives, we're going to need energy. Karina didn't respond. Her glowing eyes narrowed as a faint hum filled the air, growing steadily louder. Is that... Alex started, but Karina cut him off. Yes, she said, her voice tense. More drones. They're sweeping the area. Okay, plan B, Alex said, slinging the backpack over his shoulder. We hide. I've got a basement. Not fancy, but it's got a couch and a decent Wi-Fi connection. Karina turned to him, her expression caught between exasperation and amusement. Alex, these are Concord surveillance drones, not earthly pests. They will locate us within minutes. Then what's plan C? He asked, his voice climbing an octave. Karina's lips curved into a small, almost mischievous smile. We improvise. Before Alex could question her, she raised her hand, and a shimmering blue sphere appeared in her palm. The sphere pulsed with energy, casting dancing shadows across the room. What's that? Alex asked, eyeing the orb warily. And is it going to explode? Not unless I want it to, Karina said calmly. She closed her eyes, murmuring something in a language Alex didn't recognize. The sphere expanded, enveloping the two of them in a cocoon of light. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Alex yelped, flailing as the world around him seemed to dissolve into a swirling vortex of colors. "What's happening? Are we teleporting? I'm not great with teleporting." "Hold still," Karina said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "That's easy for you to say," Alex grumbled, clutching his backpack like a lifeline. "You're not the one about to lose his breakfast in hyperspace." The vortex abruptly solidified, and Alex stumbled as his feet hit solid ground. He blinked, trying to orient himself. They were no longer in his modest suburban home. Instead, they stood in a vast open field under a sky that shimmered with hues of violet and gold. Strange, glowing plants swayed gently in the breeze, their bioluminescence casting an ethereal light over the landscape. "Where are we?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with awe. Karina stepped forward, her gaze scanning the horizon. "A sanctuary, a place I discovered during my travels. It is shielded from conquered surveillance." Alex squatted down, poking one of the glowing plants. It wobbled like gelatin, releasing a faint melodic hum. "This place is like a Lisa Frank fever dream," he muttered. Karina gave him a puzzled look. "Lisa Frank?" "Never mind," Alex said, standing up. "So, what's the plan? We just hang out here and hope the Concorde gives up?" Karina's expression turned serious. "The Concorde will not give up. They are relentless in their pursuit of perceived threats to galactic stability. We must find a way to evade them permanently." "Great," Alex said, rubbing his temples. "So we're fugitives now, just your average human and his glowing alien ex on the run from intergalactic law enforcement. Totally normal." Karina arched an eyebrow. "Would you prefer I had left you behind?" Alex opened his mouth to respond, then thought better of it. "Touché." As they talked, the sky above them darkened, and the stars began to appear, brighter and closer than Alex had ever seen them. He tilted his head back, marveling at the sight. "This is incredible," he said softly. "I've never seen anything like it." Karina watched him, her expression softening. "You once told me you dreamed of traveling among the stars," she said quietly, "of seeing worlds beyond your own." Alex smiled faintly. "Yeah, well, I didn't think it would involve running for my life. But hey, beggars can't be choosers." Karina's lips twitched into a small smile, but her gaze remained thoughtful. "Despite everything, you still find humor in the chaos. It is admirable." "Admirable or annoying?" Alex asked, grinning. "Both," she said, her tone light but her eyes warm. For a moment, they simply stood there, the strange alien field around them bathed in starlight. But the peace was short-lived. A low, ominous hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Alex's stomach dropped as he realized the sound was coming from above. Karina," he said, his voice tight. She followed his gaze, her expression hardening as a sleek, metallic ship descended from the sky. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent glow, and its engines emitted a pulsating, otherworldly light. "The Concorde," she said, her voice laced with urgency. "Of course it's the Concorde," Alex muttered, his pulse racing, because things were going way too smoothly. Karina grabbed his arm, her grip firm but not painful. "We must move, now." "Where?" Alex asked, stumbling after her. "We're in the middle of a glowing alien field. There's nowhere to hide." Karina didn't respond. Instead, she raised her free hand and the blue sphere reappeared, enveloping them once more. "Hold on," she said, her tone steady despite the chaos around them. "Yeah, because I have so many other options," Alex muttered, bracing himself. The world dissolved into light and sound again, and Alex felt his stomach lurch as they were pulled through space. When they finally landed, he collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. "Okay," he said between breaths. "I officially hate teleporting." Karina ignored his complaint, scanning their new surroundings. They were in a dense forest, the towering trees glowing faintly in the moonlight. The air was thick with the scent of moss and something sweetly metallic. "This should buy us some time," Karina said, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. "Great," Alex said, sitting up. "So now what? We just keep bouncing around until the Concord gets bored?" Karina hesitated, her gaze distant. "There may be another way, but it is risky." Alex groaned. "Of course it is. Why would anything about this be easy?" Karina's lips quirked into a small, almost teasing smile. "Where would the fun be in that?" Despite himself, Alex laughed. "Fair point. So what's this risky plan of yours?" Karina's expression grew serious. "We must find an ally. Someone who can help us evade the Concord permanently. Someone with access to technology and resources beyond what I can provide." Alex raised an eyebrow. "And where do we find this intergalactic miracle worker?" Karina's gaze met his, her eyes glimmering with determination. "I have an idea, but it will require us to travel far beyond the reaches of Earth." Alex sighed, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "Well, I always did want to see the galaxy. Guess I'm getting my wish." Karina's smile softened, and for a moment, the tension between them eased. But the distant hum of the Concorde ships served as a stark reminder that their journey was far from over. The dense forest echoed with the rustle of glowing foliage as Alex and Karina pushed forward, the air alive with a faint, rhythmic hum. Each tree seemed to thrum with its own bioluminescent energy, lighting their path in soft pulses of green and violet. Alex couldn't help but think the forest had a mind of its own, which was both fascinating and unnerving. "Do these trees ever turn off?" Alex asked, gesturing at the glowing trunks. "Or is this like their version of a rave?" Karina spared him a glance, her lips quirking in a faint smile. "These plants are not merely decorative. They are interconnected, sharing energy and information through a vast subterranean network. Your term, rave, is not entirely inaccurate." "Great," Alex said, stepping over a route that twisted like a spiral staircase. "I'm hiking through an alien internet. Remind me to log off if we make it out of here alive." Karina paused, her gaze flickering toward the horizon. The faint glow of Concord ships loomed like distant storm clouds, their hum carrying a metallic undertone that made Alex's skin crawl. "They're still searching," she said, her voice low but resolute. "We must move quickly." "Quickly?" Alex huffed, adjusting the straps on his backpack. "You say that like I'm not already dying back here. Do aliens not believe in snack breaks?" Karina gave him a bemused look. "Your species' obsession with food continues to baffle me." "Hey," Alex said, holding up a protein bar triumphantly. "You don't win intergalactic hide-and-seek on an empty stomach." Karina's eyes sparkled with quiet amusement, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned back to the path ahead, her movements fluid and purposeful. As they walked, Alex couldn't help but wonder who, or what, Karina had in mind as their ally. She'd been tight-lipped about the details, offering only vague reassurances that the person they were seeking would help them evade the Concord. "So," Alex said after a while, "are you going to tell me who we're meeting? Or is this one of those, I'll know them when I see them situations?" Karina's expression grew thoughtful. "His name is Lork. He is unconventional but highly skilled. If anyone can help us, it is him." "Unconventional how?" Alex asked, his curiosity piqued. Karina hesitated, as though carefully choosing her words. "He operates outside the Concord's jurisdiction. Freelance engineer of sorts." "Freelance engineer?" Alex repeated, raising an eyebrow. "That sounds suspiciously like space criminal." Karina's lips twitched. "Your instincts are not entirely wrong." "Great," Alex said, throwing his hands up. "First we're fugitives. Now we're teaming up with a space pirate. This just keeps getting better." Karina stopped abruptly, her gaze fixed on a clearing up ahead. "We're here." Alex followed her gaze, his breath catching as they stepped into the open. A massive, dome-shaped structure rose before them, its surface gleaming with a strange, shifting light that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. Surrounding it was a sprawling junkyard of machinery, each piece cobbled together with an almost haphazard brilliance. "This," Alex said, gesturing to the chaotic scene, Is where your highly skilled friend works?" Karina didn't answer. Instead, she approached the structure, her movements cautious but confident. Alex followed reluctantly, his eyes darting to the various contraptions that littered the area. One particularly large machine looked like a cross between a lawnmower and a cannon, and Alex decided it was best not to ask. Before they could reach the dome, a voice rang out from somewhere above. "Karina!" Alex squinted, trying to locate the source of the voice. A moment later, a figure emerged from the top of the dome, sliding down its curved surface with practiced ease. The figure landed gracefully in front of them, revealing a tall, wiry alien with a mottled gray complexion and 4 spindly arms. His eyes glowed a soft amber, and his grin was wide and mischievous. "Lork," Karina said, her tone both familiar and wary. "It's been a long time." "Too long," Lork replied, his voice carrying a sing-song quality. "And you've brought a human?" He leaned closer to Alex, his amber eyes narrowing in mock scrutiny. "Interesting choice." Hi," Alex said, offering a weak wave. "Nice to meet you, I guess." Lork's grin widened. "Polite, too. You don't see that often in fugitives." Alex groaned. "Is everyone in space obsessed with the fact that I'm a fugitive now? I didn't even do anything." "Technically," Lork said, tapping one of his chin-like appendages thoughtfully. "Being here with Karina is doing something. But semantics." Karina stepped between them, her expression serious. "Lork, we need your help. The Concorde is tracking us. I need a way to shield Alex and myself from their surveillance." Lork's eyes gleamed with interest. "Ah, so you're running from the big bad Concorde. What did you do? Steal classified tech? Incite rebellion? Crash a diplomatic gala?" "None of the above," Alex said, crossing his arms. "I'm just the unlucky guy she showed up to visit." Lork's grin didn't waver. "Unlucky for some, maybe, but I see opportunity." Karina frowned. "Lork, this is serious." "It's always serious with you, Karina," Lork replied, waving a hand dismissively. "But fine, come inside, and we'll see what I can do." The interior of Lork's dome was even more chaotic than the outside. The space was crammed with gadgets, screens, and tools that looked like they'd been salvaged from 100 different worlds. In the center of the room was a large circular console that hummed with energy. "Welcome to my humble abode," Lork said with a flourish. "Careful where you step. Some of the floor is experimental." "Experimental how?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. Lork winked. "You'll find out if you step on the wrong panel." Alex froze mid-step, earning a chuckle from Lork. Karina ignored the banter, stepping up to the console. "Can you do it?" Lork's expression turned serious for the first time. He studied the console, his fingers moving deftly over its controls. "Shielding you from the Concorde isn't impossible, but it won't be easy. Their tech is annoyingly thorough." "We don't have time for easy," Karina said. Lork nodded, his grin returning. "Lucky for you, I specialize in the impossible." Alex watched as Lork worked, a mix of awe and trepidation bubbling in his chest. Whatever came next, he had a feeling this was only the beginning. Lork's dome hummed with a symphony of whirs, clicks, and occasional bursts of static as he busied himself at his control console. Screens lit up in cascading arrays of alien symbols that Alex could only describe as squiggly. He leaned against the nearest non-sparking surface, watching as Lork darted from one workstation to another with the energy of a caffeinated spider. "You know," Alex said, breaking the silence, "you'd think a guy with 4 arms would have a neater workspace." Lork didn't even glance up. "Creativity thrives in chaos, human. I don't expect you to understand." "Yeah, well," Alex muttered, brushing a suspiciously sticky residue off his arm. "My creativity prefers not to stick to things." Karina, standing at the edge of the room with her arms crossed, shot Alex a pointed look. "Focus." "Focusing," Alex said, raising his hands defensively, "just trying to lighten the mood." "The mood," Lork chimed in, still working, is about to get significantly lighter or darker depending on how you view life-threatening danger. That's not exactly comforting, Alex said. What are you even doing? Creating a decoy signature, Lork explained, tapping a series of commands into his console. If the Concord thinks you've vanished into the void, they'll stop hunting you. Vanished into the void? Alex repeated, his voice climbing an octave. Can we not phrase it like that? It's a figure of speech, Lork said, though his mischievous grin suggested he was enjoying Alex's discomfort. Mostly. Karina stepped forward, her tone clipped. Lork, we need more than a decoy. We need a long-term solution. I know, Lork said, waving one of his hands dismissively. Patience, Karina. Art takes time. Alex tilted his head. Art? I thought you were an engineer. Engineering is art, Lork replied, turning to face him with exaggerated grandeur. You think these beautiful contraptions assemble themselves? Alex eyed the nearest contraption, which looked like a blender had fused with a telescope. Beautiful isn't the word I'd use. Lork ignored him, focusing back on his console. Decoy first, then we'll talk long-term solutions, but if you're in such a hurry... He trailed off, his grin widening. You could always help. Help? Alex said. Me? I don't know the first thing about alien tech. I barely understand how my microwave works. Perfect, Lork said, grabbing a glowing tool from a nearby table and tossing it to Alex. Fresh perspective. Go tighten the flux stabilizer. Alex fumbled with the tool, which hummed ominously in his hands. The flux what now? Lork pointed toward a cylindrical device emitting faint green sparks. That thing. Just twist the shiny bit. This feels like a terrible idea, Alex muttered, but he approached the device cautiously. Karina sighed. Lork, is this truly necessary? Absolutely, Lork said cheerfully. Besides, it's fun watching humans panic. Fun? Alex said, glaring at him. I'll show you fun if this thing explodes in my face. It won't, Lork said, though his tone lacked conviction. Probably. With a resigned sigh, Alex twisted the shiny bit, bracing himself for disaster. To his surprise, the sparks stopped, and the device emitted a soft chime. See? Lork said, clapping his hands. You're a natural. Yeah, sure, Alex said, tossing the tool back to him. Sign me up for the Intergalactic Handyman Union. Karina's gaze flicked to Lork. Is the decoy ready? Almost, Lork said, his tone turning serious. But there's one more thing. To sell the illusion, I'll need a trace sample of your genetic signature. Karina's expression darkened. That's dangerous. Only if it falls into the wrong hands, Lork said. Which it won't, because I'm a professional. Karina hesitated, her jaw tightening. Alex stepped forward, sensing the tension. Okay, hold up. Why does he need your DNA? Can't we just, I don't know, fake it? You can't fake quantum entanglement, Lork said, as if it were obvious. The Concord scanners will detect inconsistencies. And what happens if they find this decoy and trace it back to you? Karina asked, her voice sharp. They won't, Lork assured her. I'll make sure of it. Besides, who doesn't like living dangerously? Karina stared at him for a long moment before finally nodding. Do it. Lork produced a sleek device that resembled a cross between a pen and a tuning fork. He pressed it gently to Karina's arm, and the device emitted a faint beep. All done, Lork said, pocketing the device. Now, let's fire this baby up. He turned back to the console, his hands moving with practiced precision. A holographic display appeared, showing a glowing map of the surrounding sector. Lork tapped a few buttons, and the map pulsed as a decoy signal appeared, mimicking Karina's energy signature. There, Lork said, leaning back with a satisfied grin. That should keep them busy. And if it doesn't? Alex asked. Then we'll improvise, Lork said with a shrug. But for now, you've got some breathing room. Karina nodded, though her expression remained guarded. Thank you, Lork. Don't mention it, Lork said. Seriously, don't. I have a reputation to uphold. Alex couldn't help but laugh. Your reputation as a space pirate/engineer/mad scientist? Exactly, Lork said, pointing at him. You're catching on. As the tension in the room eased, Alex found himself relaxing for the first time in what felt like days. For all his eccentricities, Lork had come through. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. But as they prepared to leave, a distant rumble shook the dome, followed by a series of sharp, metallic clangs. Lork's grin vanished, replaced by a look of alarm. That, he said, is not good. Karina tensed, her hand instinctively going to the device at her hip. What is it? Lork's fingers flew over the console, his expression grim. The Concorde. They've traced the signal faster than I anticipated. Alex groaned. Of course they have, because why would anything go right? Lork glanced at him, his grin returning despite the circumstances. Well, on the bright side, this is going to be very exciting. Exciting isn't the word I'd use, Alex muttered as the dome shuddered again. Karina turned to Lork, her voice sharp. Options? Lork's grin widened. We fight, we flee, or we fake our deaths. Personally, I recommend all three. Great, Alex said, clutching his backpack. Let's just hope the next phase of this plan doesn't involve me fixing another flux thingy. Don't worry, Lork said, grabbing a blaster-like device from the wall. This part involves explosions. Of course it does, Alex muttered, bracing himself for the chaos to come. The dome trembled under the Concorde's relentless assault. Pulses of energy rattled the walls, shaking loose sparks and shards of glowing metal. Alex clung to the nearest console, feeling like a pinball in an intergalactic game he hadn't signed up for. Okay, Alex shouted over the din. Just for the record, I liked it better when space wasn't actively trying to kill me. Karina stood calm amidst the chaos, her hand gripping the hilt of her plasma blade. Her other hand hovered over a device on her wrist, scanning the environment for weak points in the Concorde strategy. Lork, she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. Can we hold them off? Lork, perched on a rickety scaffold that was somehow still standing, cackled as he adjusted a series of dials. Define hold off. If you mean survive long enough to laugh in their faces, then yes. Barely. Not reassuring, Alex snapped, ducking as a chunk of debris flew past him. The Concorde's ships hovered just outside the dome, their dark angular designs silhouetted against a swirling nebula. The skies seemed alive with color, a stark contrast to the deadly reality of the situation. Karina's voice remained steady. We need to disrupt their coordination. They're using a hive network to track us. Oh, good, Alex said, because fighting one spaceship at a time would have been too easy. Enough sarcasm, Karina said, though a flicker of amusement crossed her face. Lork, can you jam their signal? Lork leaped down from the scaffold, landing with an unsettling amount of grace for someone who looked like he might fall apart at any moment. Of course I can, but I'll need time, and by time, I mean someone to keep them from vaporizing me while I do it. Alex groaned, picking up a makeshift shield that looked suspiciously like a modified frying pan. Guess that's my cue to not die. Attaboy, Lork said, slapping Alex on the back. Don't worry, the shield's only exploded twice in testing. Wait, what? Karina stepped forward, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. Her gaze was steady, unyielding. We'll protect each other, together. It was the first time she'd said something like that, not as a leader issuing commands, but as an equal. Alex nodded, swallowing his fear. Together, then. Outside the dome, the battle was chaos incarnate. Concorde drones descended in perfect formation, their weapons lighting up the sky in synchronized bursts. Karina moved like a force of nature, her plasma blade slicing through the drones with precision. Alex followed as best he could, his frying pan shield deflecting stray shots with surprising effectiveness. Is it just me? Alex shouted. Or does it feel like these guys have a personal vendetta against kitchen utensils? Karina managed a faint smile. Perhaps you've insulted their culinary skills. Behind them, Lork worked furiously at his console, the dome's interior lighting up with energy as his jamming device came to life. Almost there, he called out. Keep them busy. A particularly large drone descended, its weapons locking onto Alex. He froze, gripping his shield as the drone's cannons charged. "Alex, move!" Karina shouted. But before the drone could fire, a burst of energy erupted from Lork's console, sending out a wave of interference. The drone sputtered, its lights flickering before it spiraled out of control and crashed. "Ha!" Lork yelled triumphantly. "Jammed them good!" The remaining drones faltered, their formation breaking as they lost connection to the Hive network. Karina didn't hesitate, leading a counterattack that dismantled the remaining forces. Alex slumped to the ground as the final drone exploded in a burst of sparks. "Is it over? Please tell me it's over." "For now," Karina said, offering him a hand. He took it, pulling himself to his feet. "So, what now? We just keep running?" Karina's expression softened, a rare moment of vulnerability. "Number the Conquered will never stop, not as long as they see me as a threat." "Then we make them see something else," Lork said, stepping forward. "A little misdirection, a little smoke and mirrors. I can forge a trail so convoluted, they'll be chasing their tails for years." "And us?" Alex asked. Karina hesitated. "We'll need to part ways, Alex. Staying together only puts you in greater danger." Alex felt a pang of sadness but nodded. "Figured you'd say that. But, can I just point out how bad your timing is? We literally just became a good team." Karina's lips quirked in a faint smile. "You've grown, Alex, more than I expected." "Yeah, well," Alex said, scratching the back of his neck. "Turns out intergalactic fugitive wasn't on my bucket list, but it's been educational." Lork clapped his hands. "Touching. Truly. Now, can we wrap up the emotional goodbyes before the Concord sends reinforcements?" Karina turned to Lork, her gaze firm. "Thank you, Lork, for everything." He waved her off. "Oh, don't get mushy on me. Just remember to send a postcard if you end up somewhere scenic." Karina and Alex stepped outside the dome one last time, the sky now calm and filled with the faint shimmer of distant stars. "This is where we say goodbye," Karina said. Alex swallowed the lump in his throat. "Guess so. Take care of yourself, okay? And maybe don't let any more humans fall for you. We're fragile." Karina's eyes glimmered with unspoken emotion. "Goodbye, Alex." She stepped into the shadows, disappearing into the forest. Alex stood there for a long moment, the weight of the journey settling over him. Finally, he turned back to the dome, where Lork was waiting with an impatient look. "Come on, human," Lork said. "Let's get you back to your planet before you start crying all over my equipment." Alex managed a weak smile. Yeah. Let's go." Back on Earth, Alex returned to a life that would never quite feel the same. He found himself looking at the stars more often, wondering where Karina was and whether she was safe. But he also felt stronger, braver, someone who could face the unknown with more courage than he ever thought possible. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the universe, Karina carried the same memories, knowing that no matter the distance, they had changed each other's lives forever. As Alex gazed up at the night sky, he chuckled to himself. "Why did you forget me, human?" he said softly, mimicking her voice. "As if I ever could." The stars twinkled in silent reply, a reminder that some connections, no matter how improbable, are never truly broken.